Well, welcome to this InterAcct demonstration of the inventory or stock control system. This screen display we're looking at the moment is a typical stock item, although the fields that are on display can be personalised to suit quite dramatically, and they will change depending on what software modules you've got as well. So let's have a look at firstly some of the fields that are on display and their particular use, and then we'll have a look at the menus. This stock item, as you can see, is actually an air conditioner. So it's part of a product group called air conditioning. You can have any number of product groups, and it's also part of a product category when you can have any number of categories. So there's actually a three-tiered stock control system that allows you to sort your stock items by product group, and then within product group by category, and then of course then the individual product items. Now the product item code is a field that can be up to 20 characters alphanumeric. You can structure your own product codes any way you wish, of course, here. And indeed, there's also a separate supplier part number as well as your own product code. So if you wanted to have your own coding structure separate to your different suppliers, you can do that if you choose. Although we link this to a particular supplier, one stock item can actually have multiple alternate suppliers. You'll see menu number 17 down here can have any number of suppliers of this product item, and each supplier you can record what their last cost was and their last quoted cost, and also each supplier can have their own part number. Now these things, including the product description here, go into what we call an also known as file, and that also known as file is supplemented with what we call alternate codes and supersessions. So when you're having to sell an item or order an item or just any reference to an item, without having to know the product code, you can search on any number of the also known as's, such as the product description, supplier part number, or any superseded part number that links back to this item. Any way you keyed in, or any part of the description. For instance, you could even be searching on the word conditioner contained within the description. It will find this item. We do actually have, as you can see here, two fields for description, and that's not always needed, but if you want to have that on your, if you needed more than one field of description, that's provided for. But in addition, you'll see menu number 16 down here has a free format product specifications area, and that might be useful if you wanted to cut and paste technical specifications that might be held, let's say, on a website. You can do so, and then again you could be producing a product profile sheet that might be associated with a quotation or an invoice, where you might want to show, in this case we've got a photograph of the item plus some specifications. You might want to have some pricing information on a product profile sheet, and effectively design yourself a little product brochure from the data held within the InterAcct system. We can have the weight of an item, and indeed in the case of the importing system we might have the cubic capacity of an item, which is used to calculate freight possibly. We can have separate buying units of measure from selling units of measure, and we have many variations on this too within the retail point of sale system, but there is, as you can see, a conversion factor between different units of measure if you're buying in a drum and selling per linear metre, for instance. Down through here is all the sort of pricing, costing information. You can see the buy price. It can be entered. Now that is updated automatically if the latest buy price is changed on a purchase order, or at the time when you receive goods, the system will automatically change the latest buy price. We also maintain a weighted average cost. You can see the last buy price is $11.25 on this item with 4 decimal places, but the weighted average cost is slightly different, as you can see here. On this particular item we've got the markup as being 75% on cost, and that's got a suggested sell price of $19.68, but we've nominated a list price in this case of something different, which is $19.95. So down here it's calculated the profit margin, and it also shows us here that we've got 3% in the terms of the diff percentage, 3% more gross profit on this item given that current price than what the 75% markup would generally suggest we should have. So you can search on that field, particularly when it goes into negative, and it's one of these standard inquiries basically telling you that you need to change your prices if you're losing gross profit. So we're making 3% more gross profit here than we normally do. Well, here's another product item that we're looking at. In this case, it's a bearing item. We've still got a photograph image, which is you can actually search on the database of all your images, and it will be able to call up any image that you've stored on your database anywhere in the network. We nearly finished off this block of fields here. One I didn't cover was the labour hours, and that's used in the job costing software modules to not only estimate the cost of using a particular product item on a job, but also the labour to install that product item. In this case, we've got half an hour's labour. We'll use the standard charge rate. Down through here, we've got a reconciliation of now all the quantities, right, starting off with the opening balance of what we bought in and have used or sold, what's currently in stock, what's held in reserve for either jobs or sales orders, and therefore what's net available. And it shows what's on back order or forward order or purchase order on this particular item and the net available quantity. Now, if we now move over to the next menu, this menu again will change quite dramatically depending on the type of stock item you've got and the software modules that you've purchased. So I'm just going to cover some of the things rather briefly that can be done within the InterAcct system. One of the fields over here is, by the way, is type. And in the system, most people just have a very simple field here, and they may even default to B, which is we buy this item. But as you can see, you can also have stock items that are held on behalf of clients. Second-hand items can be flagged. And we've also got this option to have a kitted or list of components associated with an item. And that might be where you're selling a product which in effect is made up of several other components. So when you actually sell the kitted item or the bundle, it actually takes out of stock all the individual components of that kit. It's one of the options available within the system. We can also have items that we manufacture, and of course if we have a manufactured item, we'll link into the menu. At the next menu, we'll link into bill of materials. And we can also sell links and sheets. Now this is often used in the timber industry, where you've got an item being costed per linear metre or per square metre, but you're actually supplying a length or a sheet, and particularly in the case of plywood. So it handles those peculiar, or slightly peculiar I should say, situations as well. Okay, so just looking at the next menu, we have a suggested reorder system, of course, within InterAcct. There's two levels, both min-max on quantities to calculate what is the suggested reorder quantity. In this case, we've got a min-max on quantities and lead time and order multiples, and it's actually saying we should order now based on that, and it will allow you to have a look at suggested reorders by not only by stock item but also all the items that you get from one supplier. But there is an alternate way of calculating the suggested reorder, which is based on forward months cover and min-max levels based on forward months cover and formulas based on demand over a 12-month period. But essentially that system uses the history of what we've sold or used of this item, so that if you start to sell more or less of an item, the min-max quantities will either increase or decrease accordingly. So quite sophisticated options there in terms of suggested reordering. The stock movements screen is quite neat because it's like a tracking screen. So if you've got this particular stock item being used and needed for either sales orders or jobs, it will actually look at what's, in this case we've got 2 sales orders, we've got 25 on sales order, this is what we might have in requirements for a job, and what we need to purchase, what has been purchased, what's in goods in transit. Now that column won't be seen if you don't have the foreign currency import shipment costing module, which is a special one of course for overseas imports. What's been received, what's been reserved for this particular order when it's available, what's been shipped and what's yet to ship, as you can see here. And this would show you the purchase orders when the purchase orders have been raised, and link you back. By the way, if you called up these items, it would link you back into the original sales order. Of course, it would link you to the purchase order if that's been raised. It would link you to an imported shipment if that was the case as well. So this is a kind of a showing you the integration that's associated with inventory, with being able to link back to all these source transactions. But it's quite a neat way of looking at the demand on a particular product and the status of each order that's in the system. The next menu number 4 is kind of like the old-fashioned ledger card for the stock item. It will show all the movements in and out of the stock item, and when we're purchasing, it will show where we bought them from, what price we paid from those suppliers, and when we sold it or issued it to a job, it will show all the history of who bought that particular item or what job was associated. And once again, under menu number 4, the transaction menu, you can link back into all those source transactions and track them back to the supplier invoice or the job or the sales order, whatever the case may be. So this is just giving you a bit of an idea. We will cover some of these other menus here of the sort of power of the InterAcct stock control system. It can be as simple as you really wanted to make it, or as sophisticated as it needs to be, and we can personalize these fields and menus to suit, of course. Moving on down some of these other menus here, one of the options within InterAcct is to have the same stock item at multiple stock locations, and indeed within each of those stock locations you can have bin locations where you can locate this item if you like. Those stock locations could be warehouses, they could be where you've got stock out on approval with clients and that hasn't actually been purchased by those clients, or it might be simply your stock being held at a subcontractor. If you have to send stock out to be worked on, you can have those subcontractors or suppliers that where you've sent the stock temporarily shown as a stock location, or even indeed service vans that might have spare parts stock. You can have a list of all those there as well, and you can see there's a full reconciliation between the different stock locations and of course a stock transfer system as well. Each stock location can have min-max levels, so you can again have a suggested stock replenishment by stock location system if you want to have that. Another software module is to break up stock within the main warehouse by multiple bin locations. You can see the stock item has a standard bin location, but it can have any number of alternate bin locations if you want to. A bit of a burden on terms of managing bin locations, because obviously if you're moving stock around within a warehouse and it's not always at the same location, quite a bit of administration required. In a manufacturing system, like where you've got a bill of materials, that's one of the options with InterAcct, you can go and search where this particular item is used in a bill of materials, and it will list out all the items where it's actually part of it, one of the components if you like. That's what that where used is about. I mentioned before about alternates and supersessions. That goes and updates the also known as file, so you can basically link this product with other codes, and when you're searching on the product it will link it back to the main product file. Now disclaimers. Disclaimers basically are text comments that you can attach to this particular product item. It's basically legal disclaimers that you might want to show on a quotation or an invoice that says, look, colours may vary, it's a natural product and blah blah blah. You can have all those sort of standard comments if you want to as legal disclaimers, and have them appear on quotes and delivery dockets and invoices and that sort of thing. And next menu down, number 10 here, the selling price levels. One product item here, we've got a list price of $3.41, but you can have any number of selling price levels. The standard system automatically calculates 4 different standard selling price levels, and you can call them whatever you like, in this case list, trade, wholesale and distributor. There is also the option of setting up quantity price breaks. It's one of the sort of options that are available in the software, and you can get quite sophisticated with your pricing levels if you want to. The pricing calculates automatically based on a discount per the product group, in this case bearings, and it will actually set, so if a cost changes and it tells you at the time of purchasing, hey, the cost has changed, you need to change your sell price, and you've done that, these selling prices here, these 4 levels will change automatically. You don't have to remember to do that. Now in addition, you can also have customer contract prices, where a particular customer gets a certain agreed price on this product with an expiry date, so that again when you're selling this item it will go to this file automatically, work out the correct selling price and show that there, and if the expiry date has been exceeded it will give you obviously a warning message to that effect. So quite a sophisticated multi-tiered selling price structure available within InterAcct. Basically it's trying to take out of the hands of the operator the knowledge of what the pricing agreement is with a customer, and that's used in both in the job and in the distribution invoicing system. Following on the menus here, the next group are 3 view menus where they would appear if you have back orders or forward orders or indeed purchase orders. You can link in and actually view those items, and of course from here if we wanted to call this item up we could then go directly into the sales order or the customer in relation to that particular back order, or indeed the supplier file, or see the delivery details. This is part of that, again, that integration aspect of the InterAcct system. So viewing back orders, forward orders, purchase orders that are outstanding for this item, those menus are going to appear if you've got quantities associated with that. This menu number 15 is quite neat. It allows you to look at an item as we are at the moment, and if you wanted to raise a purchase order straight away, you can go straight to number 15, and literally with 2 fields of data input, 2 fields of entry, you could, such as who's going to raise the purchase order, and then what quantity do you require, and it defaults to the reorder quantity. From there, you can put a comment as well, so those 3 fields. It then creates the purchase order automatically, and indeed then allows you to simply print that purchase order. So it's a very quick way with, very few fields of data entry where you can raise a purchase order, and then of course from here you can go and print the purchase order and or change it if that's what you want to do, or add other items to that same purchase order from the same supplier. Here's the purchase order print, of course, and you can email that or whatever you want to do. So that's just a quick way of raising a purchase order from the item. Product description we talked about before, where you can cut and paste descriptions in there. Alternate suppliers we talked about before. And number 18 is where you can keep a track of the sales history for this item by month, and it will show you, there's no figures in this example, but it will show you what's been sold and invoiced. There was sales order and actually dispatched, the sales value, gross profit, and of course the profit margin, and that just keeps going year after year after year, month after month. So that's a good example of a particular product item. I think what we'll do next is have a look at some of the variations on the same theme. Well, here we are with yet another stock item. This particular one is an imported product item, and it comes from Germany. It's probably priced in euros. You can see the foreign currency value over here, the basis under which we bring in FOB or CIF. We've got an extra field here too, M3, which is the cubic capacity of the item, which is used for calculating freight, overseas freight. Much the same fields everywhere else, except we've got a couple of extra menus here. Number 9 is the import costing menu, where you can work out what is the landed cost likely to be using various cost factors. You give any number of cost factors and it will calculate a landed cost, as you can see here, based on either foreign currency or local currency values, and either on weight or dollar values, whatever it may be. So that allows us to calculate the landed cost based on a particular exchange rate, in this case euro, 0.67, and it will then copy that buy cost up here automatically, calculate what the sell price should be, and as you can see we've nominated a list price of 2200. The only other difference with an imported product is that you do also get the option of seeing what shipments are outstanding for that particular product, and you can see here we've got an overseas shipment. It departed on the 5th of July when it's due. The date it actually landed hasn't landed yet, and so from here of course we can pull up that entry and go straight into the import shipment record and see the shipment details and all the costings, etc. There's an automatic landing of overseas shipments. Now one other thing here too, you can have what's called serial batch numbers, and that's quite useful for product items like this one here is a display monitor. And batch numbers might be used in the carpet business where you've got roll numbers, or batch numbers can be used in the medical business where you've got use by dates and you want to control who bought a certain batch and what customers, etc. So the serial number menu just showing here is number 8, and here is where you can put in things like the type, make and model, and then break down those products according to the serial numbers. And again you can track the serial numbers, where did we buy them from, what did we pay, who was it sold to, and all the details of the customer, the sales order, warranty expiry dates, etc. So that's already part of the serial number control system, which is often associated with the service maintenance software modules that InterAcct has as well. Quite an elaborate system there. Okay, well what we might do now is pop back to the main menu. So I'm just going to click on this little house button here, go back to the main menu. All this time we've been working underneath menu number 10, which is the stock materials menu. And what I'm going to do just to finish off is take us there again and see the whole stock menu here. And this is where you can do your various transactions, including stock takes. There's several different ways of stock taking, freezing stock balances as at a certain date and time, and then leisurely putting in your stock count results, or doing what we call manual stock takes. Stock adjustments, stock conversions is like a simple manufacturing where you're converting product by cutting it or adding various products together to make another sort of a simple manufacturing version there. All the sort of associations with multiple warehouses, both stock transfers and requests to send and receive stock, and various other transactions, of course, receiving stock with delivery dockets and supplier invoices. Getting started is where you can set up your various tables, things like that, where you want ABC analysis, where you want to classify stock according to those items that should always be in stock, or order as necessary, etc. This is where you can set up your standard stock disclaimers, and you can do all sorts of analysis, searching on product items based on their description or item, or those also known as style searches as well, which you use throughout the database. Here's where you can see all your suggested reorders, what needs to be reordered, analysing back orders by item by supplier, and of course forward orders as well. Central quotation register, that's based on what items have been quoted and when they're required by, and probabilities that these deals, these quotes will convert into sales orders. We can view quite a bit of sales profit analysis here. We can go right down to analysing sales and gross profit to the lowest possible common denominator of customer type and region and salesperson, by day, by week, by month, whatever it is you want to analyse sales. And there are report generators of that areas too, in terms of analysing your sales and gross profit by employee, by region, by branch, by whatever set of parameters you really want to analyse sales by. And lastly, checking areas where you may want to say, where do we need to change our selling prices? That generally happens automatically as you buy or purchase items or receive items that the cost has changed. You're given a warning to that effect if it's changed on the database, and suggested that you go in and change the selling prices. There's some quite neat features where you can change selling prices with the replace command using rounding up and down, and based on ranges of values. All sorts of options there that you can have. Anyway, this is obviously just an introduction to stock. It's a big topic,